wintry, cold edition of the Drive and Dish NBA podcast. Because most likely by the time you're listening to this, depending where you are in the world, it's probably cold.
I was like, you ain't safe this time around. I was gonna say Justin's not being facetious as he records out of Florida. Jacksonville's about to be it's about to be a little rude awakening next week. I can't really like talk too much about it because it's gonna be like literally 0 in the Philly area on Tuesday. Like I gotta go to class on Tuesday, and I think the high is gonna be 16 degrees.
That's crazy.
That's cold, man. Like, I don't care who you are. That is cold. And I know somewhere there's a Midwesterner in like Chicago or Milwaukee or out in Minnesota somewhere. It's just like, yo, like, come on, man. Like, it's like -30 here at points. But
we got a new guy starting here at the building next week, and he's from Chicago. And I've already decided I'm just going to give him the hardest time about bringing the weather with him. Like the generic work joke. Oh, you brought the weather with you. So I'm going to
I don't know if I want to be in Jacksonville if they got Chicago weather for a day. Like that is the one. I mean, it's not going to snow there, thankfully. It is supposed to snow up here. Apparently, I mean, you got the hoodie on. This episode will be out. This episode will be out before then. The game, by the time you listen to it, the game may very well be over. But like, yeah, Eagles Rams, there might be between like 3 and 8 inches of snow on the ground.
There is there is zero chance you could get me to go to that game. I don't like. Here's another hot take that I have, and this isn't necessarily for basketball. I do love going to a basketball game. But for football, I'd much rather 9 times out of 10 watch the game at home.
Yeah.
Not at the venue, at the bank or where, Lincoln Financial Field, wherever. Like, I'm not trying to watch the game there because it's not as much as watching the game. You're more there with like the party atmosphere, which is fun and I enjoy. But if I'm trying to watch the game, I don't want to be there.
Yeah, I mean, they better win. Like that's always the point. It's like it's high risk, high reward. But you're right. Like I've got a buddy right now, and God bless him, he's trying to pitch me on going to this game on Sunday, and I'm just like, it's gonna be really cold and snowy, and it'll be cool. And like, it sounds crazy because you're right. Like that's playoff football. Like how many times do you get to go to playoff football? It's a divisional round, so it's not like even like it's some wild card game. This is the Eagles team that I wouldn't say they're the favorites to win the Super Bowl, but they certainly have a chance of winning it. I don't know. It's a tough call, but I'm kind of with you, dude. Like the atmosphere is great, and you're right. Like because football stadiums, especially compared to NBA stadiums, they just hold more people. Like the only overseas sport that compares is soccer. Like it's soccer and NFL arenas are like they just hold more people. There's big difference between 45,000 and 20,000 people.
Yeah.
But to that token, like again, you also can be further away. And when you're exposed to the elements, like you're right. If I'm sitting in the Sixers arena and it's 0 degrees outside, like, yeah, that walk to the car is going to be pretty brutal, or that walk back to Broad Street line might be pretty brutal. But, I'm in the warm and cozy arena the whole time. Like,
and well, unless it's a Flyers game, because then you're in the cold. But like, dude, when I tell you the problem is too with the Eagles game, it's not just going to the Eagles because you got to get there early enough and potentially tailgate, and tailgating in the cold is a whole nother animal. Like I've experienced it once for, I think it was Nick Foles was still on the team. It was Eagles Texans playoff game a few years back.
Oh, no. I know, not the playoff game, but you're talking about the one right before the regular season. Yeah.
Right before it, and
clinched them in the playoffs.
Yes, and there was a play I just remember, and Nick Foles was in the Eagles' own end zone. He had this bomb pass. It was crazy. But like my cousin, she was with us, and she had to have been middle school or early high school, and it was cold and everyone's tailgating and people are going in between cars and you're seeing steam come up. And it's like, this poor girl does not need to be seeing a lot of dudes doing this right now. So it's an experience for sure. And that's a whole part of it too, where it's fun, but it's definitely less fun when it's, almost 0 degrees out. So
I'm gonna have to call him one time because he's not really. I mean, I guess in theory, the Celtics did win last year, and he texted me about that, and I was like, "Since when you actually watch the Celtics?" Our buddy Russell Colburn went to that Chiefs game because he lives out in Kansas City now, And he went to that Chiefs game like last year, the
Yeah.
playoff game, where it was like the water was instantly freezing and it was
Yeah.
like -20 with a -40 wind chill. We may have to have him call, like, on a slower day. We may have to have him call in. And
If I were him, I would have been using the old media connections, been like, yeah, I'm still trying to report on a team. Can I get in the media pass?
I'm not gonna. I mean, I'm not gonna tell you how he first originally got through. I think that may be off the mic conversation, but yeah, it was. I was like, dude, you made history, but like, bro, you were literally risking frostbite. Like,
Yeah,
people lost their
not worth it.
fingers at that game,
Not
dude.
worth it. No,
Yeah,
not worth it at all. Yeah. So I mean, even parades that are supposed to happen Monday here are canceled. So we're bearing down for the wintry mix. I think this storm actually has a name. I feel like they were talking about that the other day too. So whatever. Either way, to basketball as we are 6 minutes into the podcast. We got a lot of trade talk to kind of discuss, just kind of overall because the trade deadline's 3 weeks, 3 weeks ish away now. So we'll get into that. Obviously, Ballin and Fallin we'll talk about as well. But first, we wanted to talk about OKC Cleveland round 2, where OKC smoked them,
yeah,
114 to 134. I kind of approached it as a like, what did OKC learn from game one? And what do we see between the two games? And honestly, the thing that just stuck out to me, again, from a numbers standpoint, is Cleveland was sloppy and or OKC's defense on focusing on turnovers was efficient. I mean, 21 turnovers to 6 turnovers. Cleveland still beat them in the rebounds side of things, which is what we talked about. I think it was last episode. We highlighted some things that OKC and Cleveland could kind of focus on and take from game one. And I thought rebounds, specifically offensive rebounds, was an area that OKC would have been able to focus on, but that was still about even. Really, again, most of the team scoring the points, everything was very even. The thing that stuck out the most was the 21 turnovers to 6 turnovers. And you look at the score and it's kind of like, yep, that probably was a big part of it.
yeah. I mean, that's the story of that individual game. I
Mhm.
mean, the narrative is obviously OKC definitely. You feel like took this one a little more personally after last week. I think
Yeah.
people knew what it was watching this expectation. You want to get back and get right on your home floor. I mean, the other big takeaway just from this individual game, because I'm not trying to like react too much here in a vacuum, but it's just like it came down to the stars. Like Donovan Mitchell was 3 of 15 with 8 points, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander at 40. Like that's the difference right there. Like one star showed out, one star had kind of a nightmare of a game.
Mhm.
The other remarkable stat from this Cavs game, and again, I don't want to dump on him too much, but like George Niang played 14 minutes in this game, right? He was minus 30 in 14 minutes. Like Levert has a stat like this too. Levert's minus 27 in 20 minutes, which is yeah, it's not exactly great, but yeah, I mean, like the turnovers were key. Cleveland's other, I mean, even their other star guys like Evan Mobley only had 5 points. Darius Garland played the best by far. He had 20, shot really well from the field. Jared Allen, they got involved. He was perfect from the field, 13 points. Kind of like defensively though. It didn't feel like the focus was here as much for the Cavs, and I think that factored in for sure. And like, look, OKC was motivated off the rip. Like they just came out of the gate flying. Like they held Cleveland to 14 points of the first quarter. Like you feel like that set the tone there pretty quick.
Some,
Um,
something else that sticks out to me though, because I remember us talking about it in game one, was OKC's fourth quarter performance. I think they were held to like 14 points in the fourth quarter. They did that again this fourth quarter, only 15 points. Again,
you're a bazillion though this time around.
right. They scored 43 and 44 in quarter 2 and 3, but it still kind of gives me like okay, closing a games, that's 2 in a row now where again, you may have slowed up because of how much ahead I guess you were in a way, but I don't know. I don't know. It's just fourth quarter, that's 2 in a row and that's all I'm saying about it is like might be something to look at, which
Well,
whatever.
the hater argument, or I don't want to say hater argument necessarily, but I know last year the criticism or worry about Gilgis Alexander was that as you get into playoff time, because he eats so much off the line, you just wonder if he's going to get those calls. Things are going to tighten up come playoff time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not particularly worried about that, to be honest. Full disclosure, I'm not really that worried about it. Again, also when Chet Holmgren is going to come back as well. Latest on him is that he's going to be reevaluated in 3 to 5 weeks. So we're still a little bit off from Chet Holmgren, but
he was the whole season, so that's surprising.
no, he was going to be back for the end of it. And so which is good for them. Like they need him to round into shape come playoff time. Like that would be the concern, I guess. You're right. If it's there, it's late game offenses. Like who are you going to?
Yeah.
I also think, the opposite of that is their strength all season long is going to be that they suffocate teams and that they create turnovers the way that, they did. They have so many different bodies that they can throw at you, like especially on the perimeter. You talk about the season that Lou Dort's having. Like we don't need to go over how great I think the Caruso pickup was for them for the zillionth time. But yeah, I mean, again, it comes back to their defense this time around. I think they were much more focused. If you want to have that late game concern there, sure, I guess. I think they've also been blowing a lot of these teams out of the water. And so that kind of, I know they lost to Dallas in the follow-up game, which is one of those that it gives you a little more pause because Dallas is one of the better teams in the West. But again, SGA wasn't playing. So I'm not really going to take too much of a, I'm not going to have some hot take after that game either.
No, I don't. I don't think so either. It's just obviously the potential of a OKC Cavs matchup down the line is very real because they're the two top teams on each side of each side of the division. So, I'm still a little bit of a Cavs hater, but yeah, man, that was an exciting game to watch. Both have been fun. I definitely feel like, and I think we've talked about this, but from a NBA perspective, a Cavs OKC final would probably not be preferred.
Yeah. Oh, well, I disagree there.
You have SGA. I get it. You still have star power, but like market size wise, you probably prefer. If one of them's there, I think it's okay. But both of them there is like, okay, that's smaller on both sides. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't care about the ratings. I don't care about Adam Silver. I want quality ball. I don't care. I don't care about them. I don't care about the ratings. If that's the small market final we get, like, then that's what we get. I want it to be an entertaining series. I think overall, I'm more, and we talked about this a little bit last week, and because I don't think I'm as much of a Cleveland hater as you are, as we talked about this a little bit, but like OKC to me they're the clear favorite in the West to go to the finals right now. Like Memphis is there knocking on the door. Houston is knocking on the door. I don't want to rule Dallas out either, but it feels like none of them are really quite up to snuff with OKC. Like I could see OKC handling these teams pretty easily and getting their spot. My hesitation with Cleveland is just I think the road is going to be harder. Like you still have Boston, who I'm never going to rule out as defending champs. Like there's a very, strong part of me that still has Boston as the favorites in the East. Like I don't think Cleveland is checking boxes as we talked about, but I don't know that I'm ready to fully put them over Boston yet, given what they just did last year. I think Boston is maybe playing a little bit of the regular season on autopilot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a part of me that also watches moments of Boston and points and goes, yeah, they might be a little hungover too. Like, it's the NBA in these past few years, like it hasn't been the dynastic league that we've seen. It's been a lot of different teams winning every year. Running it back has not been the given that it's been in the past for a lot of these teams that have won championships even. But I'm still giving Boston that benefit of the doubt. And the Knicks, like, the Knicks have won a lot of games too. Karl Anthony Towns is arguably having the best season of his career. Like it's pretty much best case scenario for them so far on that move. Like their chemistry is only going to get better. I don't know. I just feel like that's a tougher route for Cleveland. And again, no disrespect to Memphis and Houston, because I think they're really good teams as well. And if you put them in the East, I maybe feel entirely different about this. But it just feels like Cleveland is going to have bigger fights than OKC will before we would get into a potential final scenario.
The Knicks had like a wild game against the Bucks. I don't know if you saw that last week. 140 beat them 106 to 140. Pretty big statement there. I would.
Did you see the Clippers Nets game last week? Not to really pivot. And shout out to our guy Andy Jordan for bringing this to my attention. No. The Nets had 67 points in that game.
Total.
Ooh. And like they lost by 59. And so Andy and I were talking off mic. We were like, what do you think is worse there? And I'm like, brother, it's got to be 67, man. Like I've seen teams lose by 59. Like I watched the Sixers lose by like 59 in the process, like back-to-back nights at one point. you could still maybe put up like 80, 90 points. Like 67 is a D1 score.
That's what I'm saying. I actually just pulled up 67.
Yeah.
I got to go back to, so let's see.
And like they had a lot of guys out, but like
I know, but
and it was against the Clippers. It's not even like you're playing the best team in the league. Like the Clippers have been a good story this year, but like you got blown out by 59 by this Clippers team.
But let's take a dive. So you go back to Thursday the 16th, the college matchups. Oregon State, Gonzaga, that was 89-97, both higher. Memphis and Temple, 81-88. Michigan, Minnesota, 81-84. So we got to go back to
my bad. D1 fam. It should have said it was a D2 score. My bad.
Utah State, UNLV. They would be the first. They would be the first one if you're going backwards in terms of the schedule for college basketball, where you get some 60s. Utah State had 62. They lost to UNLV, who had 65. So, I mean, you still got schools putting up 80, 90. Like you're still going good. So, that's crazy though that they got cooked like that. I guess we can take an observation if we want. They may be.
I mean, there's not really like
later for potential trade targets. I mean,
yeah, well, we'll get back to the Nets, and that's the thing is like, look, I'm not projecting the Nets to be good. I saw that, and I had to like kind of look at it twice and be like, I'm sorry, that was the final score, like,
yeah,
67. And again, this is a team. We'll save it for the trade deadline. That's going to come up right after the break. Welcome, everybody, to the Driving Dish NBA podcast. My name is Kevin Rafuse. Joining me, as always, my co-host, Justin Cousart.
Hold on. Sorry, I'm pulling up my YouTube. Stay safe, LA. Heart emoji, praying hands emoji.
Okay. Well, it's not LeBron. We did LeBron last week, unless he has another one. Let's see. Other Lakers and or Clippers player. Oh, Terrence Mann.
Former 76er.
Was it JJ?
No.
Oh, I mean, he's coach. I figured. I mean, I
worth a try. Different team. Still LA team, but former Sixer.
Oh, was it Harden?
No, Nick Batum.
Oh, shout out to our guy Nico. Oh man, Nico, I'm glad you're free in LA, man. I'm really I'm glad he's not going through this year. He deserved better.
That is true. So, and obviously the LA stuff. There's some Clippers news with the LA stuff, and obviously there were games moved around, but. In our Ballin and Fallin segment, we're going to talk about that a little bit more. So
yeah, we got a whole bunch coming up. Like we said, we're going to talk trade deadline. Obviously the latest Jimmy Butler news, but just in general, like teams that we expect to move, players that are moved. Whether certain squads should blow it up. We're going to get into all that. We mentioned Brooklyn a little bit as well, Miami, but a bunch of other teams that we're going to talk about there in that mix. Who's balling, who's fallen. A few fun moments. Vince Carter, one involved this week. Some more not so fun with the Sixers. I promise we're not going to talk about them every episode. Like this really, truly might be it. We're going to play Immaculate Grid later on the episode. You guys know the drill. Leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. We'll read them on the podcast. If you're not an Apple user, Google Play Store, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Amazon Music, Player FM, anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find us.
And we're on YouTube if you want to watch a video version of the podcast. Just search Driving Dish NBA there. Subscribe like you do with the podcast. You'll get notified when a new episode comes out.
Now, a word from our sponsors.
All right, so the deadline is coming up. There's probably a lot of teams that are getting rumored about trades right now. Obviously, the Jimmy Butler stuff is still going on, though he played the other night for Miami. They lost to Jokic and the Nuggets. Jokic dropped a triple-double on him. I know Jimmy made some jokes afterwards, but we'll see where that goes because the timeline is the deadline's approaching. So obviously the Heat we have talked about in length as to where we think Jimmy should go. I don't necessarily know if we need to rehash that, but do you see any new potential trade partners popping up that kind of intrigue you?
So maybe this isn't as intriguing. It's more of a warning, but I really hope that Phoenix doesn't do this because I can't possibly it feels like Matt Ishbia is just going to go, you know what? We got 3 stars. It's fallen a little short. Let's go get Jimmy. That's going to put us over the top because this is a Suns team that is 20-20 right now. They're just hanging on to that 10 spot. Them and Golden State are fighting for that last spot in the play-in position. obviously incredibly disappointing when you employ Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker. My problem is that, like, we kind of saw what it was with this team last year. They started off great at the beginning of the season. KD's playing great. Book has dealt with a few injuries this year, but he's largely been fine in the minutes that he's played. It's that their offense, like when the three of them are on the floor, they're not really beating teams by that much. Like quite the opposite. It's been pretty inefficient. And like, look, you're stuck with Bradley Beal because of that no trade clause. Shout out to his agent, because look, that thing was a nightmare for the Wiz. Good for them for getting off it. And that was a situation too, where you even look back in hindsight where you're like, the Wiz should have pulled the trigger on Bradley Beal well before they did. And it kind of feels like Phoenix is there with this team. Like, I don't know. I don't think you're going to trade Book given his age, and especially Double because of the hometown status and him being your guy. But for the record, I don't think they have the stones to do this. I think Ishbia is just like all in on this team and thinks this is how they're going to win. They should trade Kevin Durant. They have no picks. Like, this team is not winning anything meaningful. KD is still playing some of the best basketball of his career. Obviously, like, that would more than shake up the market. A bunch of contenders would go for him. I'm here with Phoenix. I think they got to blow it up. And I think that's the easiest way to do it. You get a quick, you recoup a few of those picks real quick. You still have Booker, so you're not totally hitting a hard reset. Again, you're just kind of stuck with Beal. It is what it is. But I don't know. But we keep getting these reports that they're trying to go all in and make Jimmy Butler work, which, like, I understand when you see those names on paper, but then I think you look at this team and go, that's not the problem. The problem is not more star power. It's the fact that they have no depth. They've never had depth. They traded all their depth.
Get the depth back, and moving Durant would be a wild one. That would be a pretty crazy move.
It's not working. Like, I get them swinging for Durant. It made sense. It's not working, and it's not going to work.
It would be interesting to, obviously every NBA team in the entire league should be calling about Kevin Durant if there's even an inkling that they'd be interested in doing it. But I wonder which teams would be best suited to land him. Like, the first that comes off in my head would be like Rockets would be an interesting one because they've got so many young guys. From like a Sun standpoint, that's also pretty juicy. Even Pistons would be interesting if you could make something happen. I know the Pistons are I think they're the only team under the cap right now. Like, they have very little money going on right now. So from like a dumping ground for salary standpoint, and that's not what I want to put Kevin Durant in category wise. So that kind of fits more.
I just looked at the Pistons book. That's great. It makes sense, but the Pistons being the only team under the book is kind of crazy, and good for them because they're not even that bad.
That's what NBA.com said, so I'm believing them. I didn't have.
No, I double checked it. I pulled the sheets up. They're under.
Okay, good, because that is wild. But you get KD and Cade together, that could be pretty fun.
I just don't get the timeline there. Like, it would make getting Cade a running mate in Detroit makes sense. Like, I think that's kind of what they need. Like, they've been competitive this year, but like, it's that mix of bringing in a few vets and having their young guys be just a little more, just developing a little bit more at this point. I just, like, Kevin Durant, given his age, I don't think by the time Detroit would be in a position to win,
it'd be too
late. Like, KD's gonna, and I think his game is aging well, but like, that's not the squad. Detroit, I may see active at the deadline because of what you said, because they have the ability. Like, if I'm Detroit, because I'm so far under the cap, like, that's where you can go on and you can take a swing at somebody. You can absorb somebody's bad contract, but get an additional first rounder. Like, that's the type of game Detroit should be playing in my eyes.
Well, I agree with you, but let me play devil's advocate for the Pistons right now, who sit 8th in the East at 21-20. So only one game better than the Suns, which is worth mentioning because that's the other team we're kind of talking about here. But you win 3 more games, you're above the Bucks. You're sitting 4th. I'm not saying you make a full push this year, but if the Pistons get KD and you have them this year and you end the season at 4 or 5, do a decent playoff run, and you get an off season to find out what else you need assets wise, I think you could legitimately have an argument to be in that little 4-3 team crew that we talk about at the top of the East right now: Celtics, Knicks, Cavs and Bucks trying to work themselves back in. Like, you're right in there. And
Are you beating any of those teams though?
with Katie and Cade and a half a year under them and an off season to add, you might be able to.
I might. Or I might trade all my assets for a team that's going to be a 4 seed and Kevin Durant's going to get older and we're just going to be kind of like, I don't think you need to push in right now if you're Detroit. Like, you're having a great season. You're overachieving. But I also think you need to take a look over the second half of the season and see how much are we really overachieving here. Like, the Eastern Conference stinks right now. I know that sounds appealing as like, oh, we'll be the 4 seed in the East right now.
And
but like,
I'm not saying, I'm not saying that it would be a, I'm not saying that it would be like a get him this year and now you're going to win the whole thing this year. I'm saying like you get KD and you have Cade who is worked himself into MVP conversation, at least in the top 10 these last few months. I think you have a legitimate chance, like to get yourself up there and could beat people in a year or two down the line. And that's where it gets intriguing to me. You find a desperate Suns that need to do something. Again, it's going to be a pricey way to get him. So that also would depend on what you give up to get him. But that would be I kind of would like it. Like, I think that I'd be all about that move if I'm the Pistons. Like, I'd be really into it.
I want to see how the season ends. I think if I'm doing that, maybe it's in the off season. And I think that changed because, like, I don't think Phoenix is going to move Durant. I think they should. I don't think they will move Durant.
I would counter my argument and almost discredit myself saying, while Kevin Durant would be awesome, and I think he would be great, another team I would call if I'm the Pistons before I do anything, I would definitely have a conversation about Cam Johnson and the Nets. Like, I know Cam Johnson might be available, cheaper. Reasonable contract, 2 years, $42 million remaining. They already sent Schroeder. They already sent Dorian Finney-Smith. So if they are doing a reset and are interested in assets, I'm not saying I would take Cam Johnson over Durant. I'm just saying Cam would fit the timeline like we were just kind of talking about a little before. He's obviously in demand right now. I'm sure a lot of teams are calling about him. That could also be very intriguing from a Pistons standpoint as well.
I mean, Cam Johnson, just period, I think is one of the most intriguing names on the market. Because you're right. I mean, he's going to be much cheaper. He's significantly less of a household name, but he's definitely very good. Brooklyn is clearly in a rebuilding phase, right? I mean, they've already made moves. Like, you moved Dennis Schroeder, you moved Dorian Finney-Smith to the Lakers here a few weeks ago. Like, you're kind of in a prime scenario. Like, the Nets are taking these on right now. Like, this is a team hitting reset. Cam Johnson's been really good for them, but you're right. He's not really gonna, if you want to hit the full button on a rebuild, like, he can probably get you multiple first rounders at this point. And I think, I mean, my thing with Detroit is I don't think Detroit will be in on him as, say, maybe as much as some other contenders are. Like, one of the names that's popped out is the team we talked about in the intro is Cleveland. Like, Cleveland going out and getting another scorer, that makes a lot of sense for them, and it makes them a little more potent.
But you know who else has a lot of picks that can look real nice? So
OKC. They're on my list. And honestly, like, I think with OKC, it's the debate of, right, like, we already are kind of a juggernaut. Go out and get Cam Johnson, and it's like you have another score. It's like, good luck come playoff time. And you're right, like in the fourth quarter, like that would kind of, maybe solve a little of those offensive issues that you're a little worried about. Like, Cam Johnson can definitely go get a bucket. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, I think if anything there, it's more of just the chemistry. Like, this OKC team has been so locked in. Like, I know everybody points to like little things like the post-game interviews and all that stuff, but like their chemistry has been pretty on point all year. You worry about shaking that up, but like, are you really shaking it up? Like, when you have as many picks as you do if you're OKC, like, you're right. You can kind of, you can make a compelling offer and go out and get him. Like, they're right there. They're on that list too for me for Cam Johnson.
That'd be pretty crazy. And so the only other kind of teams, like, I do wonder if you could in any way convince Bradley Beal to waive the no trade clause. That would be crazy. So interested to see if that happens, and then if there's anybody that wants him for some kind of trade, whatever that would look like, would be interesting as well.
Mhm.
But those were kind of my main ones that I pointed out. The other Pistons side of it that's worth mentioning is, if somebody is looking for potential, well, cheaper might not be the word, but potential veterans to add to the team. The Pistons do have Tobias and Tim Hardaway Jr. that could be involved in a swap or a trade or a move as well. So, I think getting a Cade a co-star would be really cool. I'm focused on them because I okayed that because I forgot he was on the team last year.
I was gonna say you really are atoning for Detroit this week,
I
huh?
had to make up for it. I forgot he was even on the team. Dude's playing like MVP level ball, and I didn't even remember his name. But I think that the Pistons could be sneaky and make moves. And even if they're in a win-win situation, because if they don't, not a big deal. If they do, cool. Like now it looks really good. I think all the other teams we kind of talked about potentially making trades. I mean, obviously OKC and the Cavs are in that similar spot because like they're top dogs already. But I almost feel like the Jimmy Butler stuff won't happen until we know what happens or won't happen with Cam Johnson. Like I feel like they kind of hinge on each other because I feel like teams that would be interested in one might also be interested in the other and be interested in Cam just because he's younger at the moment. Like there may be a little bit of that going on too.
Yeah, I agree and I don't. I think the markets are a little different because I think there are teams that may take a swing at Cam Johnson who because I mean look at OKC and Cleveland. I don't think either of them would make a move for Jimmy Butler. I don't think you'd mortgage the
Right.
capital where it makes sense or
Because of,
make such a big
yeah,
hit to your locker room.
because of the price tag and the age, I think is
Yeah.
a part of that. But
No,
that's
the age definitely a big part of it. I mean, the age and the injury history, like Jimmy's got a lot of miles on his tires. Like this is not in hindsight, when you look back, like when Jimmy left the Sixers and Miami made the trade for him, like there were even worries back then, obviously that were completely unfounded. And I think if this were the situation, he would be getting a king's ransom if it were 2019, but it's not.
But don't you think if you're any team and you go out and you trade for Jimmy Butler and then 4 days later Cam Johnson goes to somebody, that fan base isn't going to go, look at how much or how much less potentially you had to give up for Cam Johnson. Why didn't you guys just do that instead of going for Jimmy? I feel like the optics will look, I guess the word's worse, if Jimmy goes first.
No, I don't agree with that at all. I think Jimmy Butler's got that legacy power. Like Cam Johnson,
No,
most casuals aren't going to jump on Cam Johnson. Like you
no,
and I know Cam Johnson, and I think a lot of NBA fans know how great he's been. But like, I don't think the market is hinging on Cam Johnson. Like there are even teams like Sacramento's another one who's had some interesting Cam, and like I don't think they're remotely in the Jimmy Butler sweepstakes. Like
no, that's fair. The younger teams won't want the Jimmy stuff, but I just feel like if it's not the Suns, that'd be a bad example. I don't know. I guess maybe Lakers or something like. I just feel like the fan base would look at it like they would compare. They are going to will quote unquote whatever happens compare the two trades and be like, all right, Jimmy's going to give us this production. Cam's able to give that production at a cheaper or his production, which is lower than Jimmy's potentially, but at a cheaper rate. So then you're going to weigh the like which one's worth it kind of thing. And I feel like fan bases would go Cam Johnson in there just because of it being cheaper, him being younger, and just Jimmy wanting that next contract was also going to be a part of it.
it is, it's potential being a rental. Like it's still Jimmy
Yeah,
Butler. Like I do
I
think
know.
I want to rule that out. Like this, my
I,
guy got to the finals twice in Miami, and it was pretty much Jimmy being Jimmy.
I know.
All the injury stuff is definitely valid though. Like I don't want to downplay that either. I mean, look, the two Jimmy destinations that make sense to me, and one of them is kind of taking themselves off the table in Golden State. And I don't know if they all got the message at once, but like you had Steph and you had Draymond and you had Steve Kerr all came out and they're like, yeah, no, we don't want to mortgage the future to go all in right now. When it was like, wait a minute, I thought you guys were trying to mortgage. I thought Steph was trying to put pressure on and say, hey, let's give this one more run. Now they're saying it would hurt the franchise, which I don't fully disagree with if they decide to push all in now. Like this is a team that's hanging around 10 and 11 in the Western Conference right now. I don't think they're in a position to go for the finals. But I do think they would have been a lot more intriguing with Jimmy Butler. And I think that maybe you could have talked them into some route of competitiveness. It's kind of interesting for the Warriors to just kind of say, hey, we are who we are. We're not really that good. There's a chance we're lotto bound this season, which would certainly be disappointing for them.
Mm-hmm.
The other Jimmy destination, though, that makes sense that keeps popping up is Milwaukee. Like Milwaukee it's the weirdest season of all time for Milwaukee. Because like you've won the NBA Cup. Giannis is playing some of the best ball of his life. But like Giannis and Dame have one of the higher scoring duos in the league, but their numbers on the floor together aren't really that great.
Mm-hmm.
But their bench numbers when they're off are kind of great. So you can't really blame the supporting cast here either. Like, it's just such a weird up and down season. Like, they blew the doors off the Magic the other night, but then they'll go out and lose like 2 straight afterwards. And so I don't know. And look, they're still working Chris Middleton back in the lineup. He's obviously dealt with injuries to start the year. I don't know. I just feel like that would kind of push Milwaukee into that Eastern Conference contention. And with all their ages, with Middleton being older now, with Giannis being in his prime, like I feel like that kind of makes sense. Like that would maybe push them over the top and get them into this Eastern Conference contendership truly. Because like they're a step below it right now to me. I don't know. And if Jimmy seems on board with it, like that to me feels like the most intriguing destination for Jimmy at this point.
That would be very interesting. Do you think they'd be able to keep that group? Like you were saying with everybody there, none of them would essentially take the hit to get them there?
Well, you're not moving Giannis, you're not moving Dame, and I don't think Miami would have any interest in Chris given his age and given his injury history at this point. So it's just kind of like
it would be what it would be.
Yeah, like I mean, you maybe have to make the numbers work, but maybe a third team gets involved, but I don't see any of those 3 guys that we talked about going anywhere.
Do you think the Pacers do anything? They're another team that's like they're 8-2 in their last 10. They're pretty much tied with the Bucks.
They could because they're 8-2 in their last 10, and it's funny because like thank God they needed this because they've been one of the probably the more disappointing teams in the NBA this season, and finally they're starting to round into form a little bit. Hallie in particular has had just a miserable start to the season. But you're right. This is a team that, post conference finals last year, Siakam's back in the books. Like getting another guy in there, whether it's Jimmy, whether it's Cam Johnson, would make a lot of sense. Like it feels like that would kind of, give you that shot in the arm you need. Cause I'm kind of in the same boat as you right now. Like Indiana, feels like they're in that group with Milwaukee where it's like, they're definitely a good basketball team, but it doesn't feel like they have what it takes to get over the top right now. I think the win streak gives you a little more than because before I would have said you sit on your laurels. There's just not really a lot to do here right now. But I definitely think it's a little more intriguing now, like you said, as you rise in the rankings. The other big team that we haven't really mentioned with this, and again, it would be a big shakeup. And, there's a few other, like, I don't want to just run down the list real quick, but like the Raptors, I think are another team that you could see, make some moves just because they have guys that would be appealing, like the Jakob Poeltls of the world and such.
Yeah, get picks, get ready to reset and retrade and all that stuff. Yeah.
If I'm New Orleans, everything's on the table, right? Do we have sneaky Zion watch on the move? Are we not talking about the potential of Zion watch enough?
No, I think if you're the Pelicans, Zion would probably be last on your list of willingness to trade, right?
I would have said that at one point, and I'm still largely there. But do I think I'm like, am I totally against trading Zion the way I would have been a year and a half ago? No, not at all. Not given the injuries. Because I still think there are plenty of teams out there to take the bet on him, given his potential, given his ability. I mean, and he's been back recently these last few days, so that's good.
Like if you're the Pelicans, I mean, I guess the big part about it would be the behind the scenes stuff, right? Is Zion pissed being there? Is he done with it? Like that would be a part that would have to come into conversation. I've definitely seen those rumors going around. I think Stephen A. Smith was talking about it the other day. But to me, like, wouldn't you look to move Ingram first.
No, yeah, I think you'd look to move everybody. That's what I think you're if you're really getting, like, interesting and David Griffin just wants to say, "Hey, this hasn't worked. I know there's been a lot of injuries, but we're at the bottom of the Western Conference right now. We have disappointed largely here over the past 2 years." Like, I'm not saying you have to, and you have an excuse if you don't want to because of the injuries,
Mhm.
but I don't know, man. You look around and it feels like, I mean, other than the, like, really young guys, like the really, really like the Trey Murphys of the world, for example. Obviously, the Pelicans moving on from him, but like, yeah, I think you entertain for Ingram. I think you entertain for CJ McCollum. I think you potentially entertain even for DeJounte Murray. I know he's only been there not even a full, like, half a year yet. Maybe that's on the table, but I mean, the ultimate one would be Zion. And again, this has felt like an unthinkable concept, but and I still they may not. Like, I'm not saying this is a lock to happen, but I think you certainly put it on the table more than you would have in the past.
I hate it for a few different reasons. I had a friend tell me this in fantasy football, and I just I'm going to use it, and it just is what it is. Selling or trading a player at their lowest value is never the best way to go about it.
Yeah.
And Zion's value, though I wonder what it is. Like, I would love to see if teams are calling what they're offering at the moment for Zion, because I promise you it's not what it would have been, when he first got drafted. But he, more than anybody else on the team, like Ingram's value is probably through the roof right now. Or
Is it?
definitely about where I guess the word would be highest it'll be, right? Like will it go higher? Will Ingram's value go higher? I don't know. Zion's probably will go higher and should go higher.
Will it?
I think it should. You get a few.
Should.
I mean, it should. Zion, from where he was drafted, number one, like the hype around him, like if he even just starts playing 30 games looking like that again, it's like, damn, the value's already up again. And the national media's on him and we're talking about him. I just feel like his value's so low right now. I just wonder what the offer would be.
I mean, it would be lower than it would have been, of course. Like, it's not
Right.
going to be the potentially franchise altering offer, but I don't think it would be terribly low because of all the things you said. It's like, look, the upside is still there. He's been good when he's played. If you're betting that you can get him in a new situation and just keep him healthy and get him, on good habits and just, make the ideal scenario where he doesn't really get hurt again, then yeah, I think you absolutely are looking at this right now. I think the other, because you're right. I mean, look, that's business 101, right? Like, you never want to sell an asset at its lowest value if it has the chance to go back up. Like, I don't want to sell, my Bitcoin if it craters to 10K when it was just 100K, for example. That's
Yeah.
probably a bad example, but like, you get the point. I'm not gonna like my counter to that though is it's like, has Zion hit his lowest? Like, that's the thing with all the injuries. It's like, I don't know if he's a lock for his value to go back up. Like, it should in theory, but he's one ankle turn away from it just continuing to get lower. Like, at some point there is maybe where, if you're the Pelicans, you've seen more of Zion than anybody. You don't feel like he's ever going to be healthy. He still has a little bit of value now. He gets one or two more injuries. You start to have the conversation we're going to have with Embiid here in a little bit.
Yeah. No, I know. And yes, the injuries are a worry. I just think
Would you trade Zion for Embiid straight up? Most cursed trade ever.
I was gonna say probably no, just because I don't want to deal with it again. Like, I'm just
Right.
done with it
Right.
all of it. Um, I just wonder because the Jimmy Butler stuff. I wonder if you threw Brandon Ingram's name out into the mix.
I don't think Brandon Ingram's name is that hot anymore. I hate to say it. Like, Brandon Ingram didn't get traded this past offseason. He was maybe the hottest name on the block. Like,
Mhm.
Brandon Ingram is coming off his contract. He's going to want a lot of money, and I don't know that he's worth that money.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm curious. I don't know.
I think Brandon Ingram will make more. If you trade for Brandon Ingram, you will get more of an impact because he'll probably be on the floor more. Like, that does matter. If, like, the best
Mhm.
ability is availability.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, there's an injury risk with Brandon Ingram too.
Well, yeah. I mean, he hasn't played in over a month, but you know, I don't know. I'm curious.
It's just interesting with the Pelicans because it's going so bad. And again, you have an excuse if you don't want to, and you can say everybody got hurt. We
Mhm.
never even really we have one game of our team at 100% basically, but when you look at the past few years, I'm just saying if they hit a reset button here, I get it. It would kind of make sense. It would be bold. It would be a bold action, and it would ask for some patience from a fan base who had to have a lot of patience from the injury front here the past few years. But
Yeah.
you know, maybe it's time to shake it up. All right, who's balling? Who's falling? Our NBA version of the stock market. We always like to start with the good before the bad. So Justin, I will start with you this week. Who is balling?
Steve Ballmer, pun intended, and his wife. They donated 15 million to the California wildfires relief. The Ballmer Group announced that on Thursday, so for us 2 days ago, saying it's going to go towards addressing food, shelter needs in the community and supporting the first responders. If you didn't know, Ballmer's group is also behind the Fire Aid, which is a concert that's going to be held on the 30th at the Dome and the Kia Forum, which is also owned by Ballmer. So good for them getting behind it and helping everybody out. Obviously, it's pretty crazy. Um,
I hope it keeps going. Steve Ballmer's worth $125 billion. He can afford it.
that's also fair. Like he can help out.
I'm sound like the wrong person because it's very generous, but I'm going to sound like a hater with this because I don't think it's a lot of money for what they have, and I think it's the equivalent of like you and I donating like $100, which is like it's not to be knocked. All charity is commendable.
Yeah.
I just hope the commitment to rebuilding that community continues
Yes.
when you have $125 billion.
Well, and I guess time will tell on that one
Yeah,
at least.
not holding my breath.
That's fair. That
Uh,
being said, there was a lot of NBA games that had to get rescheduled. They did put out that like reschedule situation. So you can check that out. We don't need to go down them, but
Yeah. No, I mean, and obviously, like our prayers are with the Palisades area, with Altadena, with everybody that's been affected by the fire. It's really, really crazy. All right, balling for me this week is Vince Carter, who is getting honored by the Empire State Building. They're lighting it up in Nets colors and honors for Vince, who is getting his jersey retired by the Brooklyn Nets. 5 seasons there. One of their better scorers in history. I just closed out by accident where he was on that list. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, some more honors for Vinsanity, obviously fresh off the Hall of Fame. With the jersey retirement by Toronto as well. Now here with Brooklyn, the team right at where they went to immediately afterwards. Yeah, I mean, I feel like once you get into the Hall of Fame, it almost is a lock that you're going to get your jersey retired somewhere. Like I feel like that's like the
Yeah.
universal criteria for everybody. But it's cool to see Vince getting his flowers. And I mean, those are the teams, those are the 2 early teams. Like Vince had an incredibly long career and obviously bounced around all those teams at the end. Sacramento, Dallas, Orlando, Memphis, Atlanta at the end of his career. But these are the 2 teams that you associate him with. So it's cool
Yeah.
to see his jersey get retired there.
Yeah. Happy for him. It'll be a fun event. Good times all around. Who's your ball or your fallen, I should say?
Oh, my fallen's Embiid. My fallen is Embiid, who's now out. A setback in his foot for 7 to 10 days. He's not going to go on this latest road trip with the Sixers. Look, the season's cooked. Go back and listen to our intro last week if you want to hear me talk about how cooked the season is. They're 15-24 right now. The problem that they have is that there are 7 teams with a worse record than them currently. Brooklyn, Charlotte, Toronto, Washington, Portland, New Orleans, and Utah. Portland and Brooklyn a little bit closer, but yeah, they need to go in the tank, honestly. Like with them owing their first round pick to OKC, unless it's 1.61 to 6 protected, I think they need to just shut Embiid down for the rest of the year. And I mean, look, there's a lot of things about it that aren't aging well. Now it looks really suspect that he played in the Olympics, and I'm not mad at it because go out and get your gold medal, Joel. But it's
Yep.
yeah, like when a guy is hurt all the time and then signs this big contract extension and now basically can't play this season and we've already punted it, it's bad. Embiid is cooked. I hate and it breaks my heart, but I think Joel is cooked. I think his prime is over. I don't think he's ever going to be healthy on a consistent basis again. And I think the Sixers are completely screwed with no hope in sight.
That being said,
And maybe Adam Silver will rig the lottery. He owes us that. Maybe they kept the arena in South Philly. They didn't put it in Chinatown after Silver apparently leaned on him. So, maybe they can guarantee us Cooper Flag. That'd be a good way to make up.
I'm currently looking at a rumor, potential trade that the Spurs are interested in with Maxey. I would be so upset because Maxey's the only.
Well, that's the problem, right? Though, that's how you reset it. You resetting the lineup is you trade Tyrese Maxey, and that gets you that gets you the haul to bring back everybody. But that's insane, and I don't think it puts this team closer to winning. I just think now you're stuck with Embiid and Paul George, who are both expensive and bad.
Great. The trade offer is Keldon Johnson, Zach Collins, first round picks in 26 and 29. A pick
I'm going to kill myself if they take that trade.
A pick in 27 from the Hawks, a pick in 2030 from Dallas for Maxey.
Yeah.
The only problem is the Sixers would be roughly $500K over the salary cap. So you'd have to toss in another cheap player.
Well, yeah, that's fine. They have plenty of role players that they could do with that. That's not the issue. They have guys. It's a disaster, dude. There's no way around it.
Part of me would love to do it to see this happen just so Maxey could go play with the Spurs and Wemby, because I think they were teammates. But let Maxey go have a chance.
Go win something productive and be free and enjoy his life and not be stuck with this horrific, cursed franchise that hasn't won anything since 1983 and now has no hope of winning anything for the next decade because they butchered this so bad.
Yup.
Yeah, I'm not the person to talk to about optimism right now.
I have a Ballin. I'm just going to circle back to Cade that I wanted to hit because he's been playing like a top 5 player since 2025 started and has got himself in the conversation for MVP. Not high in the conversation. I think he's 8 on the list of 10, but I also okayed that because I forgot he was on the team again. So we'll just circle back on that. My Ballin, though, I wanted to bring up, I remembered this one because I didn't want to forget about it, or my Fallin is Karl Anthony Towns. Because 3 days ago, at a Knicks game, Karl Anthony Towns wore Eagles gear. And people were pissed. And
no. New Yorkers were pissed. Hold on. And I was like, listen, I know Cat's on a rival team. That's what's hilarious about all of it is it's like the 3 of the best Knicks players, Brunson, Mikal Bridges, and Karl Anthony Towns. So it's wild with Cat because, and I mean, Cat grew up in Jersey, but Cat was, it honestly is a little more wild. Cat grew up in Piscatawny. Piscatawny's all the way up by Newark. It's way closer to NYC than it's closer to Philly. But Cat's been a noted Eagles fan his entire career. When we won the Super Bowl, he was hype. He was wearing the hats. He was wearing all the, but there is something incredibly hilariously ironic about the fact that, the Knicks and Sixers are just, I guess they're rivals, but they've treated, same division, all that fun stuff. There is that little bit of just natural NYC Philly competitiveness there. And 3 of the Knicks' best players are all diehard Eagles fans. And it was kind of honestly when Kyle Lowry played for the Raptors, it was like that too. Lowry was a huge Eagles fan being from Philly. So yeah, it is kind of funny there. Shout out to Cat. I appreciate. Listen, Cat, we need everybody rallying for Sunday. No. You're not slandering Cat for his Eagles fan. We're not doing that.
My man changed shirts at halftime.
He had pit stains. He shoot him some bail. He had pit stains.
He heard the rumblings.
Well, it's because there's more Knicks fans in this garden or in Wells Fargo these days because Sixers are trash.
Yeah.
Josh Harris gonna wonder why nobody shows up except the Wave fans, and then go wonder why, I got no love lost for Josh Harris either. He's another one. Add him to the list. All right. Shall we play some Immaculate Grid?
Sure.
Ja's not eligible for awards, which is a little disappointing. He missed his 18th game. That could have been a Fallin as well. I wasn't going to talk about the Hornets either, but Hornets, man, Brandon Miller's out indefinitely. Just never a break.
Never ending depression for the Hornets. All right. Here we go.
It's less statisticky than it usually is for a Saturday, so that'll be good. All right. So again, you can always watch the Immaculate Grids on YouTube. Just search Driving Dish NBA podcast and subscribe there. For our podcast listeners, our columns this week from left to right are the Wizards, the Thunder, and Hall of Fame. Our rows from top to bottom are the Suns, the Mavericks, and 20,000 career points. So just what you thinking first? Anywhere you want to start?
I'm still a little depressed that we don't have an Alfred Connect. We were so close with that
Close.
Suns. I was trying to remember if he ended up on the Wizards at all by chance in a last ditch effort, but to know.
No, not a lot there, unfortunately. I mean, there's a few right away. I mean, we're gonna get 100 on this, but I'm trying to see like where I want to start. What's not too chalky so far. I mean, Hall of Fame is easy. I feel like you just want to blow through that quick.
We can if you want, sure.
I mean, if you're doing Phoenix Hall of Fame, you got Steve Nash. You've got, I mean, there will be a bunch eventually. With KD, with Book eventually. The ones that jump out immediately for Phoenix for me are, well, actually there's four. It's Steve Nash, it's Charles Barkley, it's Shaq, and the one that will probably get less and that is kind of where I'm leaning early on is, I think we talked about it before, Connie Hawkins. Connie Hawkins was like the OG great son at the end of the 70s. Definitely in the Hall of Fame. You know, teams were competitive, but didn't win. I think they made the finals with Connie Hawkins one year.
Is Tyson Chandler in the Hall of Fame?
No, he's not.
He's
Or he would have worked there if he did. If he did,
he's not. He's a candidate right now. So
yeah, I mean, I don't think Tyson's going to get in Hall of Fame. Really good NBA career, but I don't think he's quite Hall of Fame level.
Because he would have worked potentially for both.
Yeah, well, yeah, he would have worked for definitely Dallas and Phoenix there as well. I'm trying to think if they're like random guys from those teams that went to the finals,
or just like one-offs, like guys who played last second career stops with them, you know?
It's like Joe Johnson's on the Hall of Fame. Amari Stoudemire's not in the Hall of Fame.
Steve Nash.
No, Nash definitely is.
No, sorry, I was thinking of I don't know why I was thinking of a Lakers connection for some reason.
Did Kevin McHale play for Phoenix?
Ooh.
I'm trying to remember if he did post Boston. I feel like I'm getting him mixed up with Jeff Hornacek.
That's fair.
Jeff Hornacek is not a Hall of Famer. Kevin McHale is definitely a Hall of Famer. Hornacek is really good, but he was definitely not a Hall of Famer guy.
Suns Hall of Famers that are niche.
That's what I mean. I'm like trying to think of the one-offs, like, and again, it's like those Barkley teams.
No one did like a last second season with them.
Not recently. That's the problem. Is like I'm trying to think of. I mean, Shaq did essentially. I don't think Sean Marion made Hall of Fame.
What
about like? I don't know. Like even like Kevin Johnson was the other guy on the Barkley teams. But I don't think he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Hall of Fame always gets me a little bit because Bradley Beal, by the way, would work Wizards Suns.
Yes, Bradley Beal would work.
Which I know we're not working on that right now.
That is the obvious one. Isaiah Thomas works there too.
Ooh, Isaiah Thomas.
Like, man, I'm like trying to even. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think Hawkins is the only one I got in like the archives. I don't really know if I have anybody else besides the guys we mentioned. Everybody's too on the fringe. Like I don't think
not in the Hall of Fame one, so not to cut you off, but because I always associate him with the Wizards, and I feel like he played for the Suns potentially. Would Gortat work there?
For Suns Wizards?
Yes.
He would, yeah.
That would be a good one.
Yeah.
Although he's probably more like I bet Wizards people will know him for Wizards, but I don't know if they would know the Suns Connect because that was
No, I don't think they would either. I mean, because he was on the Wiz teams with John Wall and Bradley Beal and Otto Porter and those guys. And
yeah.
I mean, if anything, I think they associated him with the Magic early on. He was on Magic with his
Oh,
pretty early in his career, those Dwight Howard teams.
That's right.
I'd be fine doing Gortat there. You want to just put Gortat on the board now?
Just to get us rolling.
Yeah.
Let's go. 9%, still kind of higher than I thought it would be. Okay.
I think I have one more Phoenix that dawned on me. And I always forget he played there. Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd played for Phoenix. He was in the Stephon Marbury trade. That's what sent him to Brooklyn, or I guess New Jersey at the time.
Oh.
So like I don't know if people associate. I mean, because he would work for Dallas Hall of Fame too. Obviously won the title there, started his career there. Yeah, I mean, that's who, because Dallas Hall of Fame, I mean, shoot. It's like Dirk and Jason Kidd.
Yeah.
That might be it, dude. I don't think I have any other Dallas Hall of Famers. Like, I can think of a lot of guys that were really good on Dallas, but like I don't think they're in the and Nash. Like you could do Nash too.
There wasn't any like one-stop shops, like just do a season with them kind of thing.
Oh well, Vince. Yeah, actually, Vince Carter.
I bet should we do Vince? Because I bet people don't.
Yeah, you can do Vince there. That's fine. Vince Hall of Fame for Dallas.
You think that's gonna be high?
I don't think it'll be higher than Dirk or like Steve Nash.
3%. Let's go.
I mean, he wasn't in his prime there. Like that makes sense. Those are the guys you got to think of. I mean, Nash almost would be the cute guest there because so many people would use him for Phoenix. I still think Phoenix we go. I mean, I think we either go Connie Hawkins or Jason Kidd if we're going low. Barkley's going to be high. Shaq is going to be high because he's Shaq.
We can go Hawkins.
Okay.
Yeah,
Connie right there.
Yep. 2%, baby.
Look at that mustache, man. Classic 70s.
The stash. So OKC Suns, you got Kevin Durant. Chris Paul.
Yep. Cade, man, two heavy hitters right away. Man, who else? Phoenix, OKC. It's a little harder there than I thought it would be. Phoenix and OKC. Who's on that roster? Nobody on Phoenix now has been in OKC. Like none of the vets. Like Nurk has never been there. Royce O'Neal has never been there, I don't think.
No.
I don't think Tyus Jones has been there. Grayson Allen's never been there.
No.
I'm trying to think of like those 7 seconds or less teams of like if any of them ever ended up in OKC or in Seattle.
Yeah. Like the 2015, 2016 peeps. I don't know.
Like Paul George was never there. Russ was never there. Like trying to think of some of their like role guys. Just because he's been around a lot.
Did any of the Morris brothers end up on Thunder? Because they were at Suns.
No, I know. Keefe would be the guy I think if he did. But I don't think Keefe did. Marcus definitely didn't.
Yeah. I always get them confused anyway.
Keefe's been on more teams.
Yeah, Keefe's been around. That's why I was thinking. I know we at least have the Suns Connect. So with how many places they both went, maybe we got it.
I don't know. You want to try? I mean, I think Keefe might work at the top one. Marcus definitely doesn't, but I feel like Keefe played on OKC.
I don't remember him on OKC. I just remember him on the Suns.
I think he did. I feel like he was on OKC like relatively like for a stint. I don't think it was like a long stint, but I feel like he was there for a little bit.
Okay. I mean, if you're wanting to do it, we can.
Yeah, I might as well. I mean, it's better than Chris Paul and KD, and if we take the L, well, we take the L. I feel all right about it.
Oh, there we go.
Sick. Okay, 0.2%. Wow.
0.2.
Damn.
Okay.
How many games did he play?
Does Chandler Parsons work for either Connect?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No. I mean, he works for Dallas, but Parsons was on the Grizzlies afterwards, and I think that was it. I don't think
He
he
didn't end
really.
up on OKC for a sec?
No.
Okay.
Because it's just injuries. Injuries, like he went from being really good to just
Yeah.
non-NBA player very fast.
Yes. I just why for whatever reason I imagine him in a OKC.
Wizards and Dallas, the two that I have right away are well, three actually. Porzingis, Spencer Dinwiddie, and
Spencer Dinwiddie.
Bertans. Bertans played in both too.
Mhm. Dinwiddie's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be fine going Spencer there.
For Mavs Wiz?
Yeah, it would be Mavs Wiz he works for. I don't think Dinwiddie played in OKC.
You know who might work Mavs Thunder? Only and I feel like it's a cop out at this point because we use them for everything. But isn't he or he did a stint after the Sixers with the Mavs. And then I think after the Mavs, he went right to OKC, Nerlens Noel.
Oh, yeah, no, Nerlens definitely works. Yeah, good call. Yeah, no, he definitely Sixers traded him to Dallas. That I'm 100% about. He did have a very brief stint in OKC. He'll be low. Yeah.
8% is kind of high.
Higher than I thought. Yeah, actually. Never mind. Just kidding.
Dinwiddie?
Yeah, we do Dinwiddie there.
Spencer, 7%. All right, now we just need 2,000 points. Wall.
No, 20, you mean. I was saying we get 2,000. How much time you got? I need 2,000 real quick. We'll be here for hours.
Wall.
Did Wall have 20?
I don't know. I don't want to look it up and ruin our chances of using him, but Wall.
Wall and Beal,
Dwight Howard.
Dwight would be potentially one. I do think Dwight had 20K career points.
He had to have 20.
Yeah, I would be inclined to say the same thing. The obvious one, or maybe not obvious because he was only there for a little bit, but the one that I think for sure is Russ. Russ definitely has 20K.
Westbrook would definitely work.
Like
potentially John Wall.
Wall is tough with it. Wall and Beal are always tough because the injuries, man.
Yeah. Potentially Dwight. I think Dwight was there though. I think Dwight's got it.
I would be stunned if Dwight didn't work. I would be kind of surprised.
Should we just do it and see? Should we just do it and see?
Yeah, we have to. There's no way Dwight doesn't have 20K.
Wow.
Oh my God. He really doesn't have 20K.
That didn't work. Dwight. How much does he have? Dwight Howard.
Oh my God, dude. Oh my God. That is heartbreaking, dude. He has 19,485. Dude. Oh. Damn, shoot. All right. Well, there goes that. I mean, Russ is the one that works. If Dwight doesn't have 20K, there's no way John Wall has 20K.
That's what. So Westbrook?
I don't want to use Russ there. We'll leave that as our blank space because I'd rather get the OKC one and get 20K.
OKC, KD, Harden.
Russ.
Chris Paul.
Yeah.
I bet
the other one, dude, the other one, the sneaky one for OKC is you got to remember that they were Seattle. And if you remember that they were Seattle, I feel like Ray Allen probably works.
Yeah. You want to go Ray?
Yeah, I'll go Ray because people aren't going to see OKC and think Ray because Ray did it in Seattle.
Yeah, I like that. Ray Allen. 10%.
Yeah, 10%.
Okay,
all right,
hear me out. Dirk here, because everyone's gonna go Dirk here.
That's fine. I'm fine with that. I mean, there's so many, like, I don't want to just keep rattling these names off.
But, baby, let's go.
Yeah. I mean, hey, it makes sense. Well, for Dallas, there aren't a lot. Like, I don't think 20K.
8 people work for 20K.
And the Wiz.
Oh, but it's not gonna let me sort by.
No, it's gonna be old. I mean, let me pull up NBA players with 20,000.
That's wild. Hall of Fame is 8 too. I wonder.
Excuse me.
Hall of Fame. Oh, interesting. So,
dude, oh my God, Justin, the most obvious one. Know who it is? It's MJ. MJ's Wizards stint. Oh, gross.
You know,
Um,
you know who else? So there were 8 options for Mavs Hall of Fame: Dirk, Vince, Kidd, Tim Hardaway, Steve Nash,
okay,
Rodman.
OG Tim Hardaway did make it. Okay, I wasn't sure if he made it.
Rodman was another one.
I didn't know Robin played for the Mavs. I would have learned something.
He played 12 games in 1999 to 2000.
Yeah, right at the end. Okay. All right. So Wizards who would have worked. MJ is the obvious one. Paul Pierce is 18. He had over 20,000. Russ, who we mentioned. Mitch Richmond had over 20K. He was 48 on the list. I don't think there's many. I don't know how they got 8, honestly. Like I'm looking at the 20,000 career points
With
NBA list, and I'm like, I don't think
Oh,
there's.
Porzingis would have worked Mavs Wizards
No,
too.
we said that.
Oh, did we? Okay. I must not have realized.
I'm trying to see the active. Yeah, I mean, in the top 50, there's only 4 that would have worked for the Wiz. It would have been Mitch Richmond, Paul Pierce, um, or
Paul.
I guess. Oh, you know what? It could have been. You know, my bad. I got to go back and check this because it probably would have been the Bullets too. Now that I think about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that changed. Okay, that changes a lot then because that adds Moses Malone would have worked. Elvin Hayes would have worked, and Walt Bellamy would have worked.
Dang.
Yeah. So either way, and then there's somebody who's not on this list in the top 50 who would have had 20K for the Wizards. Anyway, top answers for ours. Phoenix and Wizards would have been Bradley Beal. Suns and yeah, that's what I said. My bad. Phoenix and OKC would have been Kevin Durant. Phoenix Hall of Fame Charles Barkley. Surprising over Steve Nash. That one did surprise me a little bit. Porzingis for Wizards and Mavs. Detlef Schrempf for Thunder and Mavs, which is hilarious. And Dirk Nowitzki for Mavs Hall of Fame. MJ for Wizards 20K points. KD Thunder 20K points, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for 20K points in Hall of Fame. Our grid, if we want to recap it one last time: Marcin Gortat for Suns and Wiz, Markieff Morris for Suns and Thunder, Connie Hawkins for Suns Hall of Fame, Spencer Dinwiddie for Wizards and Mavs, Nerlens Noel for Mavs and Thunder, Vince Carter for Mavs Hall of Fame. We did not get Wizards 20K career points. Turns out Dwight Howard does not have 20. Oof, man, that was tough. Ray Allen for 20K in OKC, and Dirk Nowitzki for 20K career points and Hall of Fame. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of the Drive and Dish NBA podcast. Appreciate you guys as always. Leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. We'll read them on the show. If you're not an Apple user, Google Play Store, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Amazon Music, Player FM, anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find us.
And we are on YouTube. You can find us there, Drive and Dish NBA on YouTube. That way you can watch video versions of the Immaculate Grid if you so choose to. Find us there, subscribe, and you'll get notifications when new episodes are coming out.